We often wonder what Dominic does. Now, no surprises from the Bank of England this lunchtime. The cost of borrowing has been kept on hold. The official interest rate stays at 0.5%. So, continuing misery for savers desperate for a better return on their cash. But Simon Gompertz has been looking at one new idea that might just earn you a little bit more.
The internet keeps coming up with new ways of giving us access to information and offers which used to be the preserve of the few. And this website could become another of those. You offer your savings on the website to the big banks, who then bid for them. They quote interest rates, and you choose the rate that you prefer.
Well, what I'm showing you here is an auction that we've just run.
The entrepreneur behind the idea, Aloysius Fakete, showed me a live auction for £30,000, and the best offer for a year was 3.9%.
This has existed for as long as there have been money markets and has been available to large corporations and very wealthy individuals with millions and millions of pounds. And these are the wholesale money markets. What we're doing is we're bringing that idea and bringing it to a wider audience and to smaller depositors.
With MaxBips, you have to deposit at least £30,000, so it's for small businesses and people who might suddenly have a lump sum or money from a house sale, perhaps. Terms are from a day to 2 years or more. You get the normal deposit protection because only authorised banks are allowed to take part in the auction, and there's a sign-up fee of £49. But is the 3.9% rate I was quoted any good?
I mean, 3.9 is pretty good in the current climate. I would say it's, it's top 10% out there, but you can beat it. At the moment, if you go to West Bromwich Building Society, for example, they'll pay you 4.3% for 1 year, minimum 5,000, not 30,000, so it can be beaten. The idea itself, I think, is really good. I think the timing is great. We've got savings rates lowest they've ever been. But I think to make it work, it's got to get a reputation of offering better rates than you can get on the high street.
Well, we don't dump a whole pile of different rates on you which may not be relevant or will have strings attached. Banks have gotten very good at creating various different marketing campaigns which make the rates look higher than they really are.
We've already showed you Zopa.com, which allows savers to lend to other individuals and small businesses to try to get higher rates. Both these new internet ideas demonstrate how the web could revolutionise banking.
Well, no, wasn't that interesting? Let's bring in Roddy Cohn at this point. He's a regular financial expert here on Working Lunch, joins us from our studio in Bristol. Roddy, I know you were listening to Simon's report there. Now, rule one on Working Lunch always is that if something sounds too good to be true, it probably is. So what about that?
Well, I think like everything else, you've got to welcome any innovation in the industry that helps consumers to get a better deal. And even if this doesn't actually give them a better deal and it just creates more competition in the marketplace, Declan, then I'm definitely in favour of it. Unfortunately, I think a far bigger issue here for viewers is to actually question the ethos of the banks in the first place and the building societies who are conning British savers by offering appallingly low interest rates, by confusing them with multiple different deposit and savings accounts, and by, generally speaking, in a sentence, ripping them off.
Well, you say ripping them off, but if the base rate of the Bank of England remains at 0.5% today, there's not much more beyond that than high street banks can give to the likes of you and me.
Well, I'd love to believe that was true, but you and I know better than that. We've been around in this business for long enough to realise these bankers are shoring up their balance sheets with money that they're borrowing. We talked about the cost of borrowing is 0.5%. Speak to many of your friends and viewers and they'll tell you that they're paying mortgage rates of 4.5%, 5%. They can't get out of long-term fixed rate deals. That really what should have come out of this financial crisis, Declan, is a government determined to reform the banking institutions and the way they treat consumers. Isn't it bad enough that we're all paying through higher taxes and much more in costs, that we also get ripped off by the very same institutions that helped to bring about this calamity? I personally think it's an absolute disgrace.
The danger, Roddy, of people looking for a higher rate of return, the danger of chasing good rates that we've discovered with the problems with, say, the banks in Iceland, is that a high rate comes with a higher risk, and sometimes we're not fully aware of just how big that risk is.
Yeah, do you know, again, as usual, Declan, you're dead right on that point. However, as I saw a client just before I came down to the studios, and he was telling me about his ISA account with NatWest Bank, and he thought he was getting a rate of 3.5% on the rate, and then he was suddenly told it's been dropped to 2.8, and he asked for an explanation. He said, well, you're not in the ISA Plus account. Well, you know, this is one of the calamities, isn't it? Is that customers are being paid very low rates of interest instead of banks just treating them all the same and giving them a decent rate of interest in the first place. If by being in the ISA Plus account you can get an extra 0.5%, why aren't all ISA savers entitled to that? Why do we have to have all these multiple accounts, changing terms and conditions? And so it's gone on. Declan, this has been going on for years, and what I want to see is a government that's committed to giving consumers a fair deal, especially the retired who depend on these interest rates to live, for goodness sake. We've got all these bills going up around us and taxes going up, and poor retired people can't even manage, and they're expected to manage with less because they're being ripped off. That's how I see it.
All right, Roddy, combative as ever. Thank you very much joining us on Working Lunch. Peter Marks from the Co-op, you know, part of, you speak for the Co-op Bank as well, of course. When you look at what the Bank of England is doing, keeping borrowing costs low, pumping extra money into the economy through quantitative easing, is it working? Are you confident in what they do?
Well, they've taken very aggressive action, haven't they? But we've got to be patient now and let that action filter through into the economy. The problem is that we always want things to happen now, and that's not how economics work. I think the bank has taken sufficient action, and we've got to be patient to let that work through now.
All right, Peter, thanks very much. More from you a little bit later in the programme.